Hey guys, welcome to Stacking Deeds. I'm Alan Corey at Real Estate Maxi.
Hi, it's Crysta Hammond here at Condo Crystal in the Twitter streets.
We've got a special treat for you today. Crystal and I were recently on Doc G's Earn and Invest podcast, where you got to interview us and learn about the show. And we wanted to share that with you so you can learn a little bit more about your host here at Stacking Deeds.
So sit back and relax while we talk with the Earn and Invest crew about our why behind real estate. This is Crysta Hammond.
I'm Alan Corey.
I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and you're listening to the Earn and Invest podcast.
My parents owned real estate, so I owned real estate. My parents were landlords, so I became a landlord. Even early in my financial trajectory, I realized that's what wealthy people do. My first door was a condo, the second a foreclosure, the third a foreclosure lake house owned by a crazy person who harassed us for at least a year after we bought it, and that eventually we 1031'd into 2 more condos. 4 doors at my peak, good cash flow, and a lot of headaches. Too many headaches. So I liquidated everything. My conclusion, real estate is a great way to build wealth, especially if you're starting from zero. But it's a lot harder than index funds. And in my case, the returns were definitely less. You can make much more money and higher returns than I did, but you're going to have to work at it. Or maybe at least listen to a podcast or two. Joe Saul-Sehy is the co-creator and owner of the Stacking Benjamins podcast, also known as the greatest money show on earth. Today is joined by Alan Corey and Crysta Hammond, who are co-hosts of the newly created and about to launch Stacking Deeds show. Joe, Crysta, Alan, welcome to Earn and Invest. Joe, tell me, I want to start with you. Why another real estate podcast?
I think there's always room, number one, for a good podcast. I mean, there always is. So number one, if anybody out there is thinking about starting a podcast, don't stop because you think the landscape is too full. If you've got something to say, we need more voices. And when I look at the landscape of real estate podcasts, there's definitely some good ones, but there are also a lot of podcasts out there, as you know, Doc, where it truly is a sales pitch. It isn't as much about education as it is about join my syndication or hand your money over to me or whatever it might be. And when I was on a hunt for podcasts that were fun first, and then second taught real estate to newbies in a way that was really much more about teaching than about selling, I couldn't find that many. And so I thought that we definitely have an opportunity here. That said, I was not ready to do this show. I was doing my own thing, having a lot of fun making Stacking Benjamins. And this guy that I'm pointing at on the video, Alan Corey, after he was on our show, was a great guest on our show, talking about real estate and how he did it. He wrote me and he's like, hey, I think there might be room for a Stacking Benjamins podcast about real estate. And I said, yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no, thanks.
I think you wrote back unsubscribe.
Right. And then it took me about a year and I'm like, you know what? I think so. But I also said, I think we need the right co-host. Like, you're so far in the weeds, Alan. I think we need the right co-host, somebody that's done it some, but also is learning about it like the rest of us. So I was like, who would that be? Who would be? And I thought Crysta Hammond. And so I wrote to Crysta. I'm like, there's no way in hell Crystal's going to say yes. Crysta said yes, which was super cool.
So, Alan, I feel like the basis of any good podcast are the stories that end up being told. So tell me your real estate story. What was your first real estate transaction?
Yeah, sure. I was living in the projects of Spanish Harlem, and I thought my way to wealth was going to be through stand-up comedy. So I was doing stand-up comedy in the New York up till 3:00 every night. And
by the way,
not,
just as an aside, as Alan told me this story, I thought this story was a joke when I first heard it. I was like, there's no way this. So I decided I'd get rich through comedy. Like, who does that? But anyway.
I was looking. I was class clown in high school, and I was like, well, I didn't get that good of grades, so maybe I need to lean in to do this class clown thing. I learned quick that jokes don't pay well, especially if you're a terrible comedian. So I was like, I need another source of income in order to pursue this comedy career, and so I just devoured personal finance books, and wealth building books, and real estate just resonated with me. And then I had a plan. It's like, if I just buy one property a year for the next 5 years, I could probably have enough passive income, or, leveraged income is probably the more appropriate term. There is some work, like you pointed out at the beginning of the show, Doc. And what I realized is, wow, man, I actually like real estate more than I like comedy. I'm better at it. It pays much better. And after 3 years and 3 properties, I was like, this is all I'm doing. And I just became obsessed with it. So my first property was I had $10,000 in my name. I bought a $100,000 condo. It was a 1-bedroom condo right after 9/11. In New York City, where no one was buying real estate, everyone was fleeing the city. So people always talk about, like, the fear of being real estate. Like there's not one person that was like, yeah, Alan, this is a good time to buy real estate. But I had $10,000. I was like, I want to get out of the projects. If this doesn't go well, I'm back in the project, so I might as well try. There's no harm done. There's only upside. It's such an asymmetrical bet. And then I bought that 1-bedroom condo. I just hung a heavy curtain across my living room, rented it to another comedian, and it paid for my entire mortgage. And I was like, yeah, I want more of this. And so just that became a lifelong passion. I've been doing it for 23 years now, buying as much as I can when I can.
Aha, the house hack, always the good first real estate investment. Crysta, Joe mentioned this idea that Alan has been in the weeds for quite a while, and he wanted someone to pair with Alan who maybe was a little bit newer to the real estate game. Talk to us about what your real estate portfolio looks like right now.
All righty. So, I'm glad Alan mentioned, that there's a lot of fear that goes into real estate investing, because I'm a part-timer myself. So I'm a full-time engineer. So I do this on a side. But my first property that I acquired was out of fear. The duplex that I grew up in on the south side of Chicago was for sale. So the landlords wanted to sell it. And so I knew that some friends of mine, they attended these real estate meetings. So I was like, hey, I would like to go with you to your real estate meetings. And my goal was to meet someone, become their friend, and say, hey, by the way, this duplex for sale, my mom lives there, please don't raise her rent. And the more people I talked to, they were like, hey, do you have a job? I was like, yeah, of course I have a job. And they're like, well, why don't you buy the property? And I was like, me? I can't buy a property. So, unlike you, there was no one in my family that owned real estate. I didn't know anybody that owned real estate. So I didn't think I could do it. But since I surrounded myself with a group of friends, that I knew, I trusted, I went to their real estate meeting, and my first property I bought that duplex. It was a house hack because I wasn't able to lower my mom's rent, but I didn't know how cheap the mortgage would be. So it was a very, very cheap, way cheaper than the rent I was paying at the time. And that was my first house hack that I didn't even know what the term was, what it was at the time. So I'm just like Alan. Oh, I like this. I want to do more, but I'm on a part-time basis here. So I haven't put both feet into it, but I'm still in the game. I've bought more. I have a condo. I have some empty lots that I plan on developing. So I'm more of okay, I still have to work a full-time job, but I like this real estate stuff. So I want to do more as I can. Like, this is something that anyone can do.
Joe, I'm interested in this idea that both Alan and Corey, when they're telling you about learning about real estate, right, they dove into either blogs or podcasts or went to real estate meetings, which makes me think a lot about Stacking Benjamins. It is the greatest money show on earth. We talk there about all sorts of things. But am I right in saying we don't talk a lot about real estate?
You're right. Number one, you are right. And the reason is because of the fact that there are so many things, and we try to give equal opportunities to all the different paths to wealth. I mean, the true nature of the Stacking Benjamin show is that there's a lot of different airplanes that you can get on, and we curate lots of different ones, and then you decide which one to get on. And I think real estate's one of those. The issue with real estate, though, as you mentioned in your open, is it is a little more complicated. There are some things that you need to know. And when it comes to buying an index funds, you buy, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, and you own one fund, you own every piece of the market. There's really not a lot to know. You're automatically invested. You're invested in most of the companies that make up our economy. Like, what do you need to know beyond that? Historically, our economy is based on companies and companies succeeding. So you just buy it. When it comes to real estate, I think that a lot of people will tell you, I'm sure that Al and Crysta will tell you that a lot of the game is played up front, right? There's some numbers that you need to know. Making a great purchase decision is a huge part of your win. When you get ready to sell your real estate, how you maintain it, right? Every month, do you hire a property manager? Do you not hire a property manager? Whether you go like Crysta was talking about with empty lots, or if you go with storage units, or, I like farmland as an example, which is totally different. If you go with commercial real estate, Alan, in our first episode that we just have been recording, was talking about, ABCD real estate. A lot of people don't even know their ABCs of real estate. So diving into some of these terms and the different language so that you can then begin riding the bike. My son's in this big time, by the way, Doc. He owns 14 rental properties and absolutely loved it. But he talks about it that way. You just got to know the language. Once you know the language, it's much easier than you think.
Alan, it begs an interesting question, right? Because obviously out there in the world, we have people who know tons about real estate, and then those who are coming at it as newbies. Who do you think Stacking Deeds is going to be most oriented to? Are you looking at beginners? Are you looking at advanced real estate people? Tell me who the information is really aimed at.
I think it's, piggyback off Joe's comment, it's learning the language. So this is going to be for the newer investor, or maybe someone who's not necessarily interested in investing yet, but they'd like to learn more about it, and then they'll make that decision later. I think even if you're just a homeowner, you own your primary and that's all you want, you're going to learn a lot about the house that you own, that you've got the most money of any investment invested in. Doesn't hurt to learn a little bit more about it and the inner workings and how to evaluate your property, how to improve your property. So I think this is anyone who's thinking about buying a home or owns a home, and then maybe your first 1, 2, or 3 investments, just to sort of set the foundation. I'm looking at the show as sort of being the foundation, and like all good real estate, a solid foundation is completely necessary.
So, Crysta, given what Alan just said, you're going to get a lot of people who come to this show who are maybe on the borderline. Maybe they don't have any properties. Maybe they've been hearing about it. In your estimation, why is real estate such a powerful investment, especially for kind of these new people who are starting to hear about it?
I feel like real estate is a powerful investment just because everybody needs a place to live. We talked about fear a little bit earlier. I noticed that the second place that I bought was also out of fear, because I was living here in the DC area and I had my, fancy pants government job, fancy pants apartment. And after the first year, the rent went up 10%. And I was like, wait a minute, you didn't do anything. Can I get a free turkey? Can you upgrade the carpet? Do something, lie to me, make me feel like this 10% increase is worth it. No, they're like, listen, we have the power to do that. We're in fancy pants government land and we can charge pretty much whatever we want for rent. So that my fear of the landlords increasing my rent again and again and again, and they weren't doing anything. And second of all, I needed a place to stay. So I'm like, well, why not own the place that I pay my, rent mortgage to? So that way I am in control. I'm in control of, number one, how much I pay. Number two, I'm also in control of the increases and decreases and things like that. So I feel like we all need a place to stay. So why not have a little more, ownership or control or, power over that of what you're paying?
Joe, you and I mentioned this idea of index funds and how you don't really need to know a lot, right, to be invested in index funds. Yet in real estate, you do have to do a little bit more work and research. I guess it makes me ask a question, why not just index funds? Like, why jump into real estate in the first place?
Well, that's what I do, right? My son loves real estate. I've owned one property. I don't do real estate investing. I realize that it's not for me. But for those people that it is for, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so many salespeople out there. Frankly, I get more pitches for real estate gurus for Stacking Benjamins than any other area, that you have to know what you're doing. But back to your question, because that didn't answer your question. Your question was about why real estate? You know what it is? There is a sense of control that Alan got by saying, I want to pay this bill. Specifically, I want to make sure that I get this bill paid. I want to make sure I get this other bill paid. And I want this property to do it. Like the sense of control you get with a rental property versus the sense of I'm on a roller coaster with index funds is completely different. When you look at the North American Real Estate Index, the NAREIT index, over long periods of time, Doc, both of them, to your point, get you to about the same place. However, Alan will tell you, and Crysta will tell you, that with some work, you can be, I think, a little bit easier. You can be, if you know what the hell you're doing, you can be somebody that tilts the odds in your favor. Like as an example, people understood odds. They wouldn't go into the restaurant business, right? They totally wouldn't. And yet more people open restaurants than any other type of business on earth.
True.
When you take a look at real estate, there's so many people that are afraid. And yet when you talk to somebody that begins their real estate adventure, they often have these outsized returns. Once they learn that language, they will. And so I don't want to promise outsized returns. I certainly don't do it myself. I don't want to learn that language, but I think that for those people that do, there needs to be a voice that is less, I don't know, charlatan-y. Is that a word? Charlatan-y, less magic, less dumb stuff, and much more, okay, here's how you're going to do it. But I think it attracts a certain person. You'll get there that way. But you know, there's people that just love it. Alan's that guy. I mean, Crystal and I can't get him to shut up sometimes. We're like, dude, let somebody else talk. Like he's just all about real estate all the time.
Well, I think it's control, which Crystal said as well as you did, Joe. Like for me, I couldn't control a stock. Like I can't go in and tell the CEO to fire someone, or their customer service needs improvement, or what anything like that. So I was never in control. I felt like stocks were gambling because it's like, yeah, I should do this and it'll probably go up, but I had no control over it. But as a landlord, I had 100% control in that I get to decide whether I'm buying it, what I'm going to charge for rent, what who's the tenant, who's, all that stuff. I felt like I was actually in control of my money. And to take a step further, what Joe was referring to is my house FIRE method, where FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And I was doing the typical math about like, let's say I had a $150 internet bill, internet and phone bill. And I can never get rid of that. Like it's you can't buy it in bulk at Costco or anything, right? It's always going to stay with me. It's going to follow me for life. And I hated that. I didn't feel like I was in control. And so the FIRE method is that you take, annual of that would be 1,800. So 12 months of that bill is $1,800. If you save 25 times that, which is sort of the math in some sort of stock savings, that's $45,000, right? So for $45,000, I could withdraw 4% a year. This is just sort of what mathematicians have come up with retirement planning. And then I would always be able to pay that internet/phone bill. And that's assuming it never goes up in price. And that seemed crazy to me, $45,000 for a phone bill for the rest of my life. So if you take half of that, what I figured out, $22,500, I could go buy a $100,000 property that cash flows $150 a month. And so I went through every single bill, and this was how I controlled my bill and how I planned on retirement was, let me buy a property to kill this bill or burn this bill, the house FIRE method. And I just went to the next bill and the next bill. And what I like about that is that in retirement, once all my bills are paid off, I get to live larger and more extravagant in retirement because the mortgage gets paid down, the rent goes up. I'm actually making more money each year in retirement, which goes against every other retirement plan where you're forced on a budget. So it comes back to control again for me.
I want to go back to what Joe said when he's like, real estate's not for me. And I almost want to say, well, I didn't think real estate was for me either. When I was in my first situation, funny thing about surrounding yourself with, real estate gurus and, listening to podcasts like these, because when I surrounded myself around those people to go to that meeting to meet someone to solve my real estate problem, I came out of that meeting, a new real estate fan. So a lot of times you can't say, well, I don't know, real estate's not for me, because sometimes it happens to you sometimes you are in a situation where, oh, this is a huge real estate issue or housing issue that I need to find a solution for, and I need to fix. And when you know, surround yourself with cool people like us, you know, you get empowered. And we do, because the whole point of the podcast is to show people, like, you know, I'm not, do I look handy? I don't want to get plumbing anything on these nails, you know? So if I can do it, you know, anybody can do it. And I feel like it was just because of knowledge and hearing stories and talking to other people.
I don't want to get anything on my nails either. or in all this hair. Don't want to do that. You know, it's funny. I want to go back to Alan's story for just a second, because you know what I like, Doc, about what Alan did there. I feel like too often we give up. We give up early on stuff. Like I teach people, as you know, better than most. I teach people board games often. And the very first thing people say is, I'm not going to get this. I don't know. 15 minutes of rules. I don't know that I can do this. And you think about it, you're investing 15 minutes to learn this thing, and you should expect that you're not going to be perfect at it right away. What's cool that I love about Alan's story, which fired me up, and when he came to me and said, hey, we should make a Stacking Benjamins real estate podcast, now Stacking Deeds, is that he gave himself permission to not need to get it right all at once. He said, I'm just going to buy a property that pays this one bill. Then I'll buy another property. So guess what he does over time, Doc? He is learning this skill, and he's learning this language a little bit at a time, and he's not expecting himself to be perfect. He just wants to pay his damn internet bill or his electric bill or his groceries. He just want to pay this one thing. And so he gives himself permission then to not be perfect and to learn it. And over time, now if I need to know anything about real estate or the language of real estate, I go to Mr. Corey here.
And to go back to your opener, Doc G, about how you had 4 condos and you sold it all, to me, maybe it wasn't working a well-oiled machine yet, but you just got a master's education in real estate, and it's just, you know, you've now saying I'm not going to use it, but that experience is a gold mine. And I think, you know, making mistakes makes you more money in the long run, except if you quit and stop doing real estate. So it compounds, just like all investments. Your education compounds, and you know. But I love it. Just get in the game and learn. Yeah, if you're, it's not hard to find a property that makes $150. Get your feet wet, and then you're going to make, you know, more money the longer you do it.
Absolutely. New people, no matter what type of investment, whether it's real estate or, Doc, anything you or I talk about anywhere, we're afraid to fail. Everybody's afraid to fail. People that are in the game will tell you they failed as often as you have. They just don't dwell on it. Like when I see people that are great, they fail faster. They fail more often. They will make 100 decisions in the time that you make 10 decisions. They will fail more often, and that's why they get ahead. It's not that they don't fail. So I think that's a huge point.
Crysta, let's talk about fear of failure. Let's go back to 2008. I mean, it was a disaster, and a lot of real estate investors lost their shirts. Tell me what you think the outlook for real estate's going to be over the next decade. I mean, could we have another 2008? And does it matter?
Oh, definitely doesn't. I wish I had a crystal ball. My name is like a fraud, I guess I would say. Not a fraud, but, you know, I wish I had the crystal ball to say that. But, you know, you never know. But a lot of opportunities came available also. I already had owned real estate in 2008, and, you know, steady and stream, it didn't really change much for me. I still had renters. People still needed a place to live, but I also was able to buy another property during that time because of the recession. I actually got a new construction, and because of the state of the economy, you know, the builders threw in all kinds of extra incentives to get me to buy. So I got a great deal on top of another great deal. So I feel like it's you know the state of the economy. It ebbs and flows, and you are ready for whatever happens. So I knew that was a great time to buy. A lot of people are on the sidelines now because of interest rates. But when I bought my first place, interest rates were at 7.5%. And it was a dream come true for me. And if I wouldn't have done anything about that, you know, I can't even imagine what would have happened if I wouldn't have got involved. But I didn't let that interest rate stop me just because it was a great time. It was a great deal. I always mess up the marry the rate. No, marry the deal.
Date the rate, and or date the rate, marry the house. Yes.
There
yes.
you go. So
Marry
I
the
was
prop-
married
yeah.
to the house. Interest rate didn't matter. I just wanted in because you can always refinance later, when the economy tells you. So the economy lets you know, hey, now's the greatest time to buy, or now's the greatest time to sell or refinance. So you go with the market. The trend is in. There's another, phrase I'm making. Go with the trend, something like that. I don't know.
Ride the trend.
Yes,
Yeah.
the trend is your friend.
Oh, there you go. To me, the crash happened because everyone's philosophy, quote unquote, real estate investing in 2008, 2009 was, oh, housing always goes up. And so that was why they were buying. Let's buy as many as we can, 100% finance with adjustable rate mortgages, because housing always goes up. And that's not the solid principles of real estate. What I teach and what I think most successful real estate investors and the ones who didn't lose their shirt is, let's get 30-year fixed loans and 12-month leases. And honestly, if it's cash flowing, I mean, after expenses, you're budgeting for vacancies, your capital expenditures, like you budget all these things, and there's still money on top. Well, you just wait it out. Like if a property drops in value 30%, it doesn't mean the rent goes down 30%, right? So you just long-term real estate investors who buy on the principle of buy and hold and cash flow, you just sell in up markets. If it's a down market, you just wait it out because you're still cash flowing, you're still making money. So that's sort of the beauty of real estate to me, is that you can't be impulsive. Like it takes ultimate fastest like 30 days to sell something. So a lot of times you're stuck in this holding this property, which I love. If it was a stock, you'd sell it instantly if you see things start dropping, but just wait it out. And every peak we've ever had in real estate has always been, surpassed. You just wait it long enough, you're going to surpass the previous peak, and you might as well make, $100, $200 a month until the next peak, and wait then to sell if you really want to sell.
We are talking to Joe Saul-Sehy, Crysta, Hammond, and Alan Corey. They are the creators of the newly launching podcast, Stacking Deeds. We're going to take a short break. I'm Doc G, and this is the Earn and Invest podcast. Let me reintroduce you. We are talking to Joe Saul-Sehy. He is the co-creator and owner of the Stacking Benjamins podcast, also known as the greatest money show on earth. Today he's joined by Alan Corey and Crysta Hammond, who are the hosts of the newly created and about to launch Stacking Deeds show. Joe, let's talk about Stacking Deeds itself. Tell me about the format of the show. What does that look like?
I'm really excited. And by the way, for people that don't understand the reference, the greatest money show on earth, it's not, I just want to explain that we're not super cocky. Like it's not.
Sure you're not, Joe. Sure you're not.
Right. The point is that the show is a circus, right? The greatest show on earth. And we stuck the word money in there. I firmly believe, as you and I have talked about a lot, Doc, that the science of play is super important when it comes to learning. I do not like, spoke earlier that I like board games. Educational board games suck. Like whenever they tell you, oh, it's a game and it teaches you something, I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to be taught anything. But my favorite board games do teach me something. At the very least, they make me ready to learn about it. I'll give you an example. There's a game called Power Grid, which is about, this is an exciting topic, about utilities and building utilities in the United States and around the world. Sounds like a snoozer, right? The game is actually really, really fun. And now whenever I open up any news article about energy, I'm much more open to it. I'm like, oh, yeah. I know that buying a coal plant is cheaper than buying an oil plant or wind or nuclear, whatever it is. But I know that over time, coal cost a lot more, right? I mean, let's not even talk about pollutants and all that. In this game, it's just economic. I can buy the plant very cheaply. I buy the coal for a lot. Wind power, I got to get a bajillion of these windmills, got to get a ton of them. And each one produces a tiny bit of power. But man, if I do, my cost of energy is zero. Like, how awesome is that? So my point is, not to belabor it, but because I thought that game was fun, because I think it's a good time, I now am way open to learning about energy. And clearly, because of that rant I just did, I know a lot more about it than I used to. Just in this game that wasn't around to teach me anything. That is my number one goal. I think that too many podcasts and finance focus on the points. Listen, if you go to a great restaurant, you think the chef knows what the hell they're doing and they're going to cook you great food. The great points of the cost of entry. Because of that, why do people come to us? They come to us to be entertained and to stick with us and to dive into these topics in a fun and interesting way. So we set up the show very much like the Stacking Benjamin show. It's not live from my mom's basement. It is live from Ruth, the realtor's car. Ruth is a friend of my mom's, and she's taking Alan and Crystal to see all these places. And while they're there, they discover there's a couple microphones in the back of the car.
What do you know?
Who knows? And this hilarious
and Ruth
stuff.
might be 900 years old. We're not sure. Yes.
Right. We haven't carbon dated her yet. but she is way. And as you can see, Crystal is Ruth's.
Yeah, leave Ruth alone.
Yeah.
Defends protector. Yeah.
Defends Ruth. So we have segments very much like the Stacking Benjamin show. The show has a little bit of ADD. We don't hover on a topic. Our goal is to curate thoughts and ideas to get you into them. You decide which piece interests you the most. And as Crystal and Alan said earlier, we're going to dabble in all the different types of real estate that are out there. So as you're deciding, is it long-term rentals? Is it flips? Is it short-term rentals, medium-term rentals? Is it buying A, B, C, D class real estate? Like what is your game? There's so many different things that you can do. We want to show you the cornucopia of stuff that's out there.
Crystal, guests or no guests?
Yes, definitely guests, because we want as many perspectives as possible also. And we want to demystify the real estate jargon that we hear a lot of, because some people feel like they're missing out on these hot terms or the hot markets and things like that. And it's like, no, you don't need to miss out. Just educate yourself, arm yourself with a variety of perspectives, because you're going to connect with something. Like maybe there's something common in your neighborhood or a place that a market you plan on moving to for a job or for love or anything else like that. So you want to be armed with information so you'll at least remember, hey, I heard that on the Stacking Deeds show, and I can piggyback to that. And then Joe, going back to I almost fell asleep during your coal plant. I'm sorry, but
he's a little bit full of hot air, I think. Talking about wind energy.
Yeah, but that coal sounded like the
power nap.
Yeah, a power nap. I love it. That's Joe's new name, power nap. It sounds like the printers and the ink. You know how you pay a printer is really cheap and then the ink is crazy expensive. So I actually was able to connect that to that boring coal plant.
Easy. I'm right here. This is the kind of relationship we developed already, the three of us. Guests very much, Doc, will also be not always on the nose. We certainly need to have on the nose guests. We're excited about a frequent contributor that we have who will talk to you forever about roofs and about the miracle of roofing. And she is incredible, all about roofing. Like we want to have those experts on the show, but we also want to talk about mindset. So some of our early guests, we've talked about Michael Hyatt coming on the show. We've also reached out to some of the on the nose guests like Brandon Turner, formerly with Bigger Pockets, Barbara Corcoran, who I think everybody knows who Barbara Corcoran is, but also guests like Julian Saunders from Rich and Regular, who's a mutual friend of ours, who failed at real estate and sold a lot of his real estate. Like hearing from people who no longer do it and why they made that decision, what they did, and maybe what they do differently. I think those are some key interviews too, but we're going to try to take it in a lot of different directions so that when you hear our guest, it might not be what you expected originally, but that's kind of the fun of listening to podcasts, right? About the fabric of, I'm going to tune into Stacking Deeds like I do Earn and Invest, and I'm going to hear a perspective that I might not have thought I was going to get.
Alan, who are you dying to interview? Like who's big on your interview list?
I sold my first flip at the age of 25 to Barbara Corcoran. So I'm really excited to connect with her. So she's from Shark Tank, if you don't know who she is, but at 25, I was making things up as I went, completely naive. And she bought my first flip and I was like, oh, maybe this is for me. And that's when I made the decision. Okay, done with comedy. Let's do real estate full time. So we've never personally talked to each other. We've always connected through my people and her people. Well, it's always her people. I don't have any people.
I was about to say, you've got people. That's a good start.
Yeah.
Let's put it. Crystal and I are Alan's people.
There you go. Yes. And but she has endorsed my books in the past and has been very like helpful, I feel like, in my career. And I just want to talk to her and let her know that. But also, just she's been someone who I've as soon as I moved to New York, her name was everywhere. This is who I wanted to be. Let's just follow in Barbara's footsteps. So to me, that's my sort of dream guest that we're going to have on the show.
Alan, do you know how she did on that flip? Like, did things start falling apart the minute she took possession?
Well, just between you and me, Doc G, I made more money than she made on it so far in the investment. But that was maybe just this timing wise. But I'm not going to tell her that.
Crystal, let's move away from guests and talk about real estate topics. Any particularly scintillating topics you're really excited to talk about or kind of bring to the show that you haven't heard before, besides roofing?
Roofing's going to be fun. So we actually had a really deep dive into the property classes. I had no idea there was a difference between the A, B, C, D, E. So I didn't know my ABCs of real estate. And, I've been in the game for a while, as a part-timer. So another good topic is that the premise that you don't need to know everything to start. A lot of people overplan. They overpopulate their brains with information and things like that. So I want people to know that, you don't know what you don't know, but you will find that comfort zone. You will just need to jump in with both feet and do it at some point, because a lot of people are on the fence. It's like the analysis paralysis. I do this all the time personally. So don't overanalyze, but we do want to give people different, the topics, the varieties, just so they know they're going to find something or someone that they connect with that's going to push them to that next step.
Crystal, I think you nailed it. I think people get frozen in that education phase. And I always tell people real estate is similar to swimming. Like, you can read about swimming, watch YouTube videos about swimming, listen to podcasts about swimming. You're not going to be a good swimmer until you start jumping in the water. And real estate's the same way. And just doing is so much better than just learning. And so I like to give everyone like a 3-month window, maybe 6-month window. Okay. But more than that, like, you just go put your money into investment and you're going to learn quickly, and it's not that hard. And other investors are very, very helpful and they want you to succeed. There's so many mentors out there that will tell you everything to make sure it's a easy swim.
This is what I thought was fun, Doc, was the fact that you listen to a show about real estate and you have a host that doesn't know there's A, B, C, D class real estate. Seriously. I mean, that sounds like a 1-star review, right? I got a real estate show, but I got somebody that doesn't know the whole language of real estate. That for me is the fun, that we've got a guy who knows that intimately. We have a woman who's an engineer, and when she picks up this stuff, like, she's got that engineering brain of, hey, I'm going to question all these things. Like, really, there's this. So to be able to explore along with Crystal and at the same time learn from her experience that she has had, and like she just said, not having to know everything. And then Alan fills in the dots. Like, some of these shows that talk over your head drive me crazy. Just, it's so in the weeds. So I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know. So to Crystal's point, we don't want to assume you know the language. And that's really, why these two people together, I think, are going to make a lot of fun for us.
It sounds like these two people together will make a lot of fun for the Stack and Deed show. Tell us about, Joe, who else may show up. Are you showing up on any of these episodes? Might we hear from the notorious neighbor Doug, so well known from the Stack and Benjamin show?
So neighbor Doug will be on the show. Neighbor Doug is going to definitely be on the show. I will be on some episodes, mostly talking about the headline segment, because if you think of the Stacking Benjamins format, this very much follows a similar format, and we talk about a current headline. So I will hang out on many shows for the headline. You'll also hear Alan and Crystal when we do real estate segments, talking about our real estate segments, almost like, Doc, when we have some of our heavy hitting interviews, we have you do the interview and then you and I discuss those. Same thing. Like, I feel like being able to flex the fact that we're this family and use each other's strengths, I think is going to be great for all three of our shows, frankly.
Funny, we'll see if Doug and Ruth have history.
Awkward.
Right.
Speaking of family, it's just worth mentioning that the reason Doug is able to kind of make the segue over to stacking deeds is he also happens to be Ruth the realtor's mechanic. So he wears many hats, and so we were able to pull that in, and we are a small family in many ways because of it.
So, Crysta, let's wrap this up. What are you hoping to accomplish? I'm imagining this is your first podcast, right? So,
Yes.
as you look to the future, what are you hoping Stacking Deeds accomplishes?
Well, of course, we're going to hit that 7 million listener mark ASAP, but even I feel like even without the big listeners number, if we help one person make their first real estate transaction, the show is a success for me, because I want to establish the community that welcomed me when I first bought my first place. When I didn't know remember Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz when they said you had the power all along? I didn't know I had this power, to buy my first place. And now I'm also in a position to change the neighborhood, because I took advantage of other programs in the neighborhood now that I'll be building some very nice affordable housing. So who would have thought, this girl from South Side of Chicago, long time ago, had a problem and was looking for someone else to solve it. And she had the power all along. So we want to find more Dorothys and Totos. Not saying men or dogs or anything, but we want to find more people that don't know the power that they already have.
100% agree with that. We're not a mogul building show. Like, we're not trying to turn everyone into like monocle wearing Monopoly men. That's not the goal. That there's other real estate shows for that. This is, hey, you just some small steps similar to investing to an IRA or a mutual fund. Like, this will help you in the future. It's a step to change your life, your finances, gives you more time and freedom and options. And that's sort of what we're going to push is, hey, you don't have to obsess over this. Let me obsess over it, and then you just do as much as you want, and we'll make sure you got the steps to succeed.
Joe, speaking of other real estate shows, you and I talk a lot about this idea of finding things we like, shows we respect, people who do things well, and learning how to integrate some of their techniques into our own shows. Let's look at the reverse side of that. What is it in other shows that you're going to specifically try to avoid in Stacking Deeds?
We're gonna avoid an emphasis toward product pushing and selling. We're going to avoid making fun of people that tried hard and went down the wrong path. I think that when it comes to our deeder community, people who are stacking deeds, I think we're going to be very positive for them. But we are going to be very negative toward brands that we think are ripping you off. So it's not going to be all sunshine and roses and rainbows all the time. It will sometimes, our show will go negative, but it will always be to caution our community about brands we think that aren't working in your best interest. So that's our editorial. Positive for you. You can do this. We won't make fun of anybody. We won't use that for entertainment. We will use brands trying to rip you off as entertainment a lot.
Alan, what is the most controversial issue in real estate today?
Controversial issue. I think right now interest rates are get the headlines and it scares people. Crystal referred to that a little bit. Just like Crystal, I got real estate investing at 7.5%, which is higher than today's interest rate. I think that's very controversial. I personally create a lot of controversy because I take the anti-Dave Ramsey approach. I think debt and leverage is a good thing, almost, if not the best thing about real estate. And you should use as much leverage as possible, which if used right, Dave Ramsey calls that playing with snakes, but there's also snake charmers out there that make a good living. So that's what I'm trying to teach and say how you can be successful and how this, it changed my life. It got me out of the projects, right? So it can yours too. And it only took me $10,000. So there's options out there.
Can I say half the fun of the show too is listening to Crystal and I fight with him about that.
Crystal, the most controversial issue in real estate today.
Well, Alan did hit the interest rate on the head. I did agree with the leverage part. I would say what's another? I feel like another is the watching out for the scams. I would say there's so many scamsters out here. They will take your $10,000 and tell you, "Hey, I'm going to show you how to make a deal," and they disappear with your money. There's the fake it till you make it people who are just total frauds online, showing this, lapse of luxuries, totally scamming people. So that's another huge, huge area. Like if it's too good to be true, run the other way. Don't walk, run the other way. So there's another side of it. It's the scamster side. And when people are asking you to Western Union money, don't do it. Like, I'm begging you, don't. There's even special departments of banks because a lot of people, grandparents, they're like, nope, we're calling the cops. Like, this doesn't sound right. So it's the scamsters. I feel like that's the biggest part in real estate.
But can I draw a line there? Like if we ask you to send us money, then do it.
Then it's okay. Then it's fine.
That is perfectly fine.
Well, I wanted to thank you all for coming on today. You know what I love about Stacking Benjamins is this idea that we can make money fun and interesting and exciting. And by doing that, we lower the stakes on all these decisions that we have so much anxiety about. While we have anxiety about money, I think we specifically have anxiety about real estate, and that keeps a lot of people from ever even considering it. I think Stacking Deeds can help the way in making it approachable, just as both of you, as well as Joe, is approachable too. I wanted to end this episode the way I end every episode by asking you what's up next in your life and where we can find you. First, Joe, when does Stacking Deeds launch and where can you find it?
We launch, hopefully if everything goes right, but I got to say, we are so prepared. We did 3 pilot recordings. We really have worked and worked and worked and worked. The show, I think, is very prepared to go. So, but fingers crossed, everything goes right. We'll be on March 7th, Tuesday, March 7th. We will be live.
And this should come out just before that. So this should prep you and get you ready. So now that you're hearing it, you can be there for the first episode and have it downloaded. Crysta, we know what's coming up next for you, which is obviously the show. But if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yes, follow me on, I'm on the Twitters and Instagram at Condo Crystal, CONDO CRYSTAL. And what's next for me, you're just, when you follow me, you're going to just hear about the journey I'm on now. And so I'm just sharing information, education, success stories, horror stories, all the fun stuff.
And Alan, we know what's next with you is probably arguing with Joe. But besides that, where can people reach you if they want to know more?
Also, Doc G, I just put an offer on your house, so things may be changing over there.
Excellent. Hopefully, it was above asking price, or it was above listing price.
I'm Real Estate Maxi on Twitter. Because I call myself a real estate maximalist, and so if you want to follow me on social media, I talk real estate every single day. Go. March 7th is really what I'm focused on, which is the Stacking Deeds right now. You can go subscribe to the show right now. We've got a trailer up. So put it on your radar, download it, and let's talk real estate and go from there.
So the show is Stacking Deeds. It launches March 7th. Download it the minute it comes out. This has been the Earn and Invest podcast. And on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank Joe Saul-Sehy, Crysta Hammond, and Alan Corey. That's a wrap. Earn and Invest is now part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to this show as well as other fine podcasts. All right, as you guys know, I keep things running just to get the after show. Tell us about the name, Stacking Deeds. Who came up with it and what was the process like of figuring out what to call the show?
It was like it was a brainstorming session, right? Because not to be vulgar, D's nuts was so popular. We were like, we can't call it that.
Stacking D's nuts.
No, Deeds. we put deeds in there somehow, and we wanted to keep the fabric, the family fabric of stacking Benjamins.
And also, to me, it conjures up memories of dominating in the game of Monopoly and making everyone cry because you have this stack of deeds in front of your face. Or most likely than not, it was reverse. People were stacking up their deeds and I was crying. But you get the idea. That's
just exactly we start off with a mood. We're like, what will make people cry? Like, how can we get somebody to flip the board, like flip the podcast?
Oh yeah.
I just want to know which one of you is going to wear the monocle on the show.
Oh, that's Alan.
Definitely Alan. See, no hesitation.
Yeah, I've got 2 on order, 1 for each eye. So I'm probably doing it. I overdo everything.
But doesn't that get rid of the monocle? Then it's a duonicle.
Duonicle. Bifocal. I don't know.
It's the modern way of doing monocles, Joe. They went out of style, but now I'm bringing them back with 2 at a time. It's more difficult glasses. Yes.
Our first product placement. We should make those, and we'll do product placement on the show for all the people that can see into a podcast. They'll see you with the duonicles on.
I like
that. That should be your artwork for stacking deeds. It's just, Alan with a monocle.
Alan on the artwork. Have you seen Alan?
You don't want me on any artwork. Yes.
Like having me on the artwork.
All joking aside, one thing that I love that you guys seem to be very attuned to is that, we have 2 or 3 different ways of getting into real estate. Well, way more than that. But you typically have the people who study the heck out of it before they get in. And then you have the people who just jump in and kind of do it and find a way without studying it like heck. And that's what kind of is nice, I think, about what you guys are talking about doing, is it really speaks to all those groups. Like when I started buying real estate, I didn't go onto Bigger Pockets. I didn't listen to any podcasts or read any books. I mean, I'd grown up seeing my parents do it. So I just kind of took their lead, maybe asked them a few questions. But, about half the people who go into real estate are just like that, right? They saw someone else do it or heard about it, but didn't do the deep dive. And the other half has really gone to the books and the podcasts, et cetera. So I think it's kind of cool that you speak to both those groups.
I'll tell you, Doc G, think of any landlord you've ever had and how the idiotic nature of that landlord. Like, to me, that bar was so low of success. I was like, I just have to be better than this guy who collects my rent check every month. Yeah. And so I bought my first property on my 22nd birthday, and no 22-year-old knows anything, at that point. So yeah, I was one of those people that just jumped all in.
And I feel like the different kinds of people too, because back when I there were no books and podcasts. Well, there were books.
Back in the Stone Age, when there was no written word.
No, but you were way older than we thought she was. We had no idea. Crystal's 847.
Right, I'm older than Ruth.
Older than Ruth.
But back then though, you had to actually, leave the house, make an effort to find people, looking in the newspaper, stuff like that, to find your group of people. And I feel like the first step you do is, or should be, to learn something, learn anything, talk to somebody. And so I feel like you end up meeting the people who jumped in and made all the mistakes, and they're actually there to share with you, hey, don't do this, don't do what I did, or here are the mistakes. Because that other part of real estate is like the people that want to know, not misery loves company, but when we're getting phone calls from plumbers and things like that, oh yeah, that's happened to me too. This is, how I solve that problem. Now, this is the system that I set in place where when the plumber calls, we're ready for the plumber's calls. We're ready for this call from the roofer, so you get to talk to people about, what worked, what didn't work. And that comes from people who jumped in, and that comes from people who overstudied.
All right, guys, thanks for checking out our interview on Earn and Invest. Next week, we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming. Go to stackingdeeds.net/show notes, subscribe so that you can stay in touch and know what's happening with the show week to week.
See you next Tuesday.